Hi guys, I'm Samina from thecodecottage.com and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are on day 10 of our 30 days of code. So we are a third of the way through to creating our very own WordPress theme from scratch, and we are building this brilliant theme, Orange Marmalade. It's a very beginner friendly theme, and if you haven't coded before but you are familiar with the concepts of HTML and CSS, then this is going to be so much fun for you to code. I really hope that's the goal. So in the last video we created this bare bone structure of our blog page, and we are following this as our wireframe. So this is what we want our individual or the main blog page with the blog excerpts to look like. So today we will be working on creating this blog title, the metadata, the comment section, adding a featured post thumbnail, a little blog excerpt, and the read more button. And then we'll just be copy pasting that code, repurposing that code to create many more of those. We will also be working on the widget area, but we won't be doing this today. Today we will just be focusing on this aspect. It's very easy because it's super static, so we will be doing a lot of that manual work now, but when we take this into WordPress and make it dynamic, things are going to be super easy. So let's get started with our code for today. So the very first thing now we will do is, as you can see, this is the footer area. So this is our blog excerpt section. This is a very dummy thing that we had created in the previous video. I'm just going to move there. Yeah. So this is the blog area and this is the widget area. Basically the purpose and intention was just to show you how this space has been occupied by the two sections, the sidebar and the main blog area. So let's replace this with actual useful content that we will be creating in the coming few days. So this is fine. We need those distinctions. So we will be working on this side of things today, on the first 3/4 of the browser screen, the main blog area, so to speak. So let's have a look at our wireframe. The first thing we want is this h1 tag. Then we want a little snippet of metadata, and then we want the comments. So what I am going to do is, every post inside of this column will be inside its own row. Every post, let me repeat that again, every post inside this area of the blog post is going to be in its own row. So this is one row, this will be the second row, and so on and so forth. So every time we begin this, I will always start with a div and give it a class of row, and I will also give it a secondary class of post excerpt. So this tells me that this is a row which contains a post excerpt, and it's not a normal row that we've been using all this time. So this is the row, basically that's the entire row of that website, and within that we have divided it into two columns, and then within this first column we have a separate row, and then we'll be having multiple rows based on how many blog posts we add, which obviously will be updated dynamically in WordPress, but now we are creating the static version. So let's begin. I'll add that comment here again, row dot post excerpt. Perfect. Now inside this row post excerpt, let's begin. First, I will create a header tag because I want my blog title to be inside a header tag. So header, and I'll give it h1. This is a blog post. So that's, let me just refresh it so we'll be able to figure this out even better. This is a blog post. Now it's still center aligned because if you remember yesterday in our style sheet custom.css, we actually included that over here to give it a text align of center. So if I take this out and refresh it, it will be gone to its usual positioning, but I'd like it to be in the center. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. Now let's move on. The next thing that I want is this. So that's the metadata. So what I will do is I will create another div. I'll give it a class of post meta. Perfect. Dot post meta. And inside that, I'll give it a small tag and give it a date. So today's date. For me, I film a couple of days ahead of time, just so in the event that there is a possibility or some emergency comes up and I'm unable to upload a video, I don't want you to have to face the brunt of that. So today is 24th September here. So you will be seeing this video a couple of days later. So let's add that. And I'm just going to refresh it here so we know what we are dealing with right now. So we have our 24th September right here. Perfect. Now I will create another div with a class of post comments and just write here 3 comments. Just gonna see what that looks like. Brilliant. That's perfect. Maybe I'll just change this from small to I don't know. Yeah, maybe we don't need the small because obviously we won't be doing that. So it's all spaced out correctly the way we want it. The small, because I realized that I want the comments and this to have the same font size in comparison to this. I don't want there to be any size difference here. So we have the comment now. Now let's have a look here. We want this featured image. Now again, like the other day when I told you, I have this image folder here. So I created these 3 actually posts using these images, this one and this one. So these are originally quite large, but then I scaled them to 1000 pixels by 600 pixels. Now I'm not sure what that's going to look like when we take it into our website, so we may have to adjust the width depending on what it actually looks like once we add it to the code. So let's do that. So again, now I'll give it a div and give it a class of post thumbnail, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a featured image. So we'll be adding the dimensions later on in WordPress, but for now, for our static, we'll leave it the way it is. And our image is inside the img folder, and we have named it as blog post 01, blog post 02, blog post 03. So let's add that, blog post 01.jpg. Now I just want to check what that size looks like once we actually add it to the site. And as you can see, this is what I was afraid of. It's really huge compared to the size. It just runs right into the widget, and we don't want that. We'll be styling this later, so we won't worry about that right now. We'll just add the content that we want to add. Now I'll need some lorem ipsum for the excerpt part of it. So let's do that. There you go. And I will select, say, a short snippet of content up to here maybe. And I will add that. I'll use the p tag now for the paragraph. No, actually I will use the div and then add the p within that div. So div with a class of post body, because that's going to be the content of our post. Perfect. And within that I'll add the p tag and add my lorem ipsum. Let's refresh that and have a look. So I've got my content here. I might add a little bit more because it looks, maybe this sentence here. Okay, brilliant. And finally now I'll be adding another div with a class of post read more. Okay, so post read more. So as you can see, we are giving our classes very semantic names. So say a couple of months later, if you want to make any changes to your theme, you will know exactly where to look. If you add very random names for your classes, and then when you go back to refer to them, it's going to be really difficult to figure out what part belongs to which class. So it's really important to name your classes exactly based on what they represent. That's very much essential. At least that's how I find it very easy to understand what I'm doing. Now I need that read more button here, this one. So obviously we know that this is btn full, so we will add that here. A href, again the hash, and class equals btn full. Perfect. And here I'll say read more. Brilliant. So let's refresh, and we have our read more button here. We have everything as we want. That's perfect. Now I'm just going to so we are done basically with our HTML creation of things. All we have to do now is enter our style sheet and make changes to that particular aspect of our blog excerpts. So I'll leave this as it is because we obviously need that. Now I'll just bring this to the top. Perfect. Now the first thing that we want to target is this right here. This is center aligned, but we also want these two to be center aligned, and then we also want to change their colors. Now this is obviously going to be a link, so let's just actually add that to our comments because it is going to be a link after all. Ahref equals, and then close that a tag, and just so we get that link when we refresh. There you go. That's exactly how we want it. Let's now head to our style sheet and start making the changes. So this basically forms part of the meta, and this is the comments. So let's add that to our custom.css over here. We've already created the styling there, and as I said, it's just better to not repeat yourself over and over again. Let's do that. So it's going to be .post meta and .post comments, and we're going to center align those. So let's refresh that, and there you go. That's perfect. Now I want this to have a different color, and even the text transform has to be uppercase over here. So what I'll do is I'll go to post meta, and I will say text transform would be uppercase, and letter spacing, I'll give it a spacing of 2 pixels, and I'll change that color to that lovely green. There you go. So let's refresh and see what that looks like. Oh, I just love how that looks, and I definitely want there to be some space between these two, but not between the meta and the blog post. So I will give it a margin top of -10 pixels. Let's see if that works. That looks really nice. And now I'll go to .post comments and give it a margin top of 10 pixels. I may need to give it more. I think that looks nice. So I think top and bottom I'll keep it at 10 and bottom, so it will give me a margin of 10 pixels from the bottom as well. 10 pixels top and bottom, and left and right 0. So okay, yeah, I know why that didn't work, because we have to give it margin, not margin top. So now by doing this, we are giving it a margin of 10 pixels top and bottom and 0 on left and right. Let's review that. I'll refresh it, and there you go. Perfect. Now I'll show you what that means in case you're not aware of it. So when I give it, where will I find that? Here. So when I give it a margin of 10 pixels and 0, and I'm just, if you have a look at this inspect element aspect here, we are in post comments, and this is a drop down which will show me what is for right, left, top and bottom. So let's do that. So you can see margin top is 10 pixels, margin right is 0, margin bottom again is 10, and margin left is 0. So 10 is for top and bottom, 0 is for left and right. So that gives me a nice spacious. I could actually just make it 20 even. I just want to make sure that I don't go overboard. and it's just right. Yeah, I think this looks really nice. I like how that looks, and we will be moving on now. So the image now, the featured image, obviously in WordPress we'll be changing that. So here I have instead of actually going into the style sheet and making that change, because that will stay permanent even when we take it to WordPress, I will rather make the changes here, because when we take it into WordPress we will be taking this off and replacing it with another WordPress dynamic callbacks. So right now let's just add a width of say 700 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Yep, very happy with that. The only thing now that I'll do is, in the style sheet, is text align this to center. Now because we have included that in a div, it automatically becomes, it won't see, text align center is not just for text. So it is basically for any element that lies inside a div tag without any parent elements. So when I look at post thumbnail, this is a div and there is only an image inside that div. So I can target that post thumbnail and give it a text align of center. There you go. It has made the change on our screen, and I'm just going to copy that and paste it. Actually, instead of doing that, we'll just add it here. Post thumbnail, dot post thumbnail, and we've text aligned that to the center now. So I'll just get rid of this and let's refresh, and it stays just the way it is. So we've got our first image done. Now we will move on over here. Now again, this I will show you in inspect element itself, because it's very easy to target these. Now we know that this is post body, and what we want to do is, first of all, give it a padding. Give it a padding of 3% from the top and bottom and 2% from the sides, so it doesn't run into the edge of our widget. So this looks perfect, and line height I think is just ideal. I don't want to make any more changes to that, so that's perfect. I'll just leave it the way it is. Post body, oops. So I'll copy this and add that styling over here, post body. And obviously now this, I want it to have a center align. So let's click this, and now when I do the text align center, it automatically gets aligned to the center. So we will add this rule to our rules over here as well. Dot post read more. So all of these elements now have a center aligned content or element. There you go. That is just so perfect. And I would actually make this center aligned as well, the post body, just to keep it more uniform. So dot post body, let's have a look. Brilliant. I love how that looks. And now all we have to do is basically our first blog excerpt is ready. Now the only thing that's left to do is basically just copying that entire code that we wrote in our HTML and just repurposing that and just changing the image, and that's it. So you don't have to copy everything. We will go inside this row. So we'll go inside the row post excerpt, copy that. We are still inside our 3/4 column. We are still inside this call span 3 of 4. So within that we have created one row. Now we'll create the other row. So let's just paste what we copied, and I'll just change this to maybe 25th September or even 23rd September actually, because it's going to go in chronological order. Comments, maybe I'll add 8 comments here. We're being very ambitious. Post 2, and yeah, I think this should work. There you go. Looks brilliant. And finally then I will be copying it again, and 22nd September perhaps, and say 0 comments, because let's be realistic and we want to know what it looks like in every stage. So 3 right here, and let's refresh that. and we have the third blog post. So we have our blog post ready. Now the only thing that I want is a clear distinction between these two posts, because it looks very it doesn't look very pleasant. There's quite a bit of space here but not enough here, so we want to change that. Now we know that this entire block is the post excerpt row, isn't it? This is what we have named it. So this is one post excerpt, then we move down, and this is the other post excerpt. So we will be targeting this. Now just have a look at the screen. I find that coding this way and showing you exactly what we're doing is so much more helpful. So we are here, this is the post excerpt, and I will give it a margin top of say 2%, 5, 9, maybe 8% works from the top. So there you go. Brilliant. I think that looks really nice. So I'm going to copy that styling and add that to my custom.css right here. Let's refresh that and see that the changes have worked. So what we see is it's making this first go down as well. So how do we stop that? Well, I will use a pseudo class .row.post excerpt first of type margin top will be 0. So let's see if that works, and that works. So what this does is it selects the first of that type. So we have a lot of these row post excerpts. We have this here, we have this over here, but this is the very first one. So using a pseudo element called first of type, we can select the first of type, which is row post excerpt. So just like we do a hover, so hover is attached to this A. What we do is we select this class and we say, so the first of type, so the first class which contains post excerpt, I don't want that to have any margin, but every other excerpt after that will have a margin. So that's what this is about. Very interesting, very, very helpful, because that way we get to style the website the way we want to. Imagine if we had given that 8% here as well. It would look so hideous, to be very honest. Like, that's what it would look like. It would get pushed to the bottom and there would be this empty space and the widget would begin before the posts begin, and it's just not a very nice design style. So this looks much neater. Now just to create another distinction here, you don't have to do this, but I generally prefer, because it just shows, in case this isn't clear enough, then adding a horizontal line definitely makes it very, very clear. So before the beginning of the next row post excerpt, I like to add just a simple tag of HR. That's it. So when I refresh this, it'll add this little thing over here, and I will copy that and paste it here as well. So you can see it'll be here as well. Now obviously very evidently it's sticking to read more. You don't want that. We also want to change the color for that thing. Style this HR, and I'll give it a border of 3 pixels solid. 3 pixel would be very chunky. 1 pixel, sorry, 1 pixel solid, and give it that green color that I want. So that's what it would look like. And then I will give it a margin top of 5%. I will obviously then reduce this from 5 to from 8 to maybe 5%. So first let's copy this styling that we've done for our HR tag. Go into custom and we add that here. And here as well, instead of 8, I'll give it 5, and we'll just see what that looks like. It looks much nicer. I would give this a bigger margin top, I'd say, like maybe 8% here. I just want it to be really well spaced out. I don't want it to look clunky or claustrophobic. Perhaps I could reduce the width to like 80% or something. And then obviously to center align it, I'll give it margin left of 10%. Let's refresh that. And this looks much neater. I don't know about you, but I'm just loving what this looks like, and I hope you're loving it too actually. I think it looks really nice, and obviously we'll be adding the HR, and when we take it into okay, so what I want to show you is when we take this into WordPress, it is automatically going to display that HR even for the last one, which will be over here. Let's just add that. Perfect. So it's going to show here as well. Now you can leave it that way because then we'll have our pagination going on over here. So this is what ultimately our blog homepage is going to be looking like. So it has been a pretty long video today, but it has been extremely informative. I hope so. Also, we covered a lot of aspects on styling the homepage. Now we're done with day 10, but tomorrow now we will be going on and designing the widget area. Within the widget, we won't be designing too many things. It's going to be a really snappy, quick, short video where I'll show you how to create an about me section here, because everything else is available in WordPress, so we won't be getting into that right now. So that's it. Today was day 10 of 30 days of code, and we are learning to build this amazing WordPress theme, and we are very close. We are 1/3 of the way through, and I hope you're enjoying this. If you are finding these videos informative and helpful, then please give me a nice big thumbs up. And also, if you have any feedback or comments, suggestions, pop them down in the comments below. If you like this and if you find it encouraging, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also ding the bell icon so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, goodbye and happy coding.